My question was, can a contract change over time?
Martin, we are actually yet to go to those slides, Martin. Here the slide is how do we compute a sprint cost? Obviously, your contract should change over time if it is in an agile based engagement because it is more towards value driven. If there is a diminishing in a value or there is a diluting aspects in the value, how to terminate the contract? That aspect also need to be part of the contract itself.
Thank you.
Okay, 1 minute. I think someone pinged me in the chat. Okay, overhead cost. Okay, fine. So here, what I'm saying is that approximately my cost of a sprint will come like this. I'm just giving a ballpark number. Okay, you may need to see your landscape, and then you may need to take accordingly your x1, y1, z1 parameters and all. Okay, in some kind of discussions with my client, what I used to hear is my client used to no my client used to tell me I have a totality of $200,000 approved to do this particular agile transformation. Now you tell me how much teams you need or how many sprints you need to do the work. So sometimes what will happen practically is that it is not that I begin it and then get to the solution. Sometimes I may need to do a reverse engineering, something like a backtracking approach. Given the cost is this fixed and these are the objectives of my agile transformation, then what I can do. So sometimes you may need to do a reverse engineering. Okay, that is what I was trying to tell in the point three. And one more thing, if I'm considering the resources deployment and if there is a training cost involved in it, probably I may need to factor in all these aspects. So just to begin the game, if when you're talking about a sprint cost, it is one of the resources, number of hours and billing and capital expenditure, operational expenditure, and also if there are any training needs. Okay, sometimes I have also worked in some of the engagements wherein the client will tell, actually I'm not bothered about whether you will have three trains or okay, when I say train, I'm actually talking about a art. Okay, so it is up to you to form three trains or four trains, but I can give only a budget approval of a certain number. So in the forthcoming slides, I have explained some of the contracts. Maybe you can hold on for now your questions. Once we go through the slides, and then we will try to connect the dots. Okay, now I'm just introducing you to different types of contracts based on my limited experience. Okay, so day by day, I'm also learning a lot. So based on my limited experience, these are all some of the contracts which I have seen. Let us quickly go through it one by one. First is called as an upper limit contract. Means what? There is a ceiling limit already given. Says for this particular piece of work, by and large, there is a fixed time and there is a fixed cost. So the cost has been given. Now it is product owner's responsibility to be vigilant on how to extract maximum value given the time and cost by always prioritizing the highest value work. That is why in my agile transformation, one of the outcome based plan is prioritize highest value work using weighted shortest job first. I take my cost of delay at a feature level or a sub epic or a epic level. I divided it by the job size or the duration, and whatever comes as the highest business value, only those chunks of work will be grabbed for the execution. So upper limit contract says you have a ceiling limit on the cap limit on the value or the cost. So based on that, you may need to extract the scope, which could be one thing. Here, my suggestion is that if your duration of your lift off contract is very high, better to handle a separate clause for it. Because I have seen some real time problems where people are not writing the clause for a lift off contract, and when it goes for invoicing and billing, it is creating a challenge. So make sure in your lift off contract you have a customer collaboration over contract negotiation, but still whatever the outcome of the collaboration, you can document it in the contract. The third contract is a very important contract, which is also picking up in the market nowadays, which is called as an iterative contract. As the name indicates, let's say I am executing a PI. Based on the PI demo, right? Once we give a program incremented demo, based on the number of user stories, number of story points, number of features accepted by the product owner, billing will be done. So it is more of a value driven. I'm not really bothered about the effort involved in it, how much my product owner is accepting as a part of the work. So iterative contract, one thing we need to keep in mind, iterative contract is more of an experimentation. So what you may need to do is have a different clause for the first 2 or 3 sprints. And from the fourth sprint, you better change the iterative contract clauses, because for the first 2 to 3 sprints, any team for that matter will be struggling to get a grip on the average velocity, because the team is also new to the rhythm, right? But once they have grabbed the work from the fourth sprint, I may suggest that why don't you change your contracting clauses at a different price point. Okay, can someone like to interpret and throw their own perception on this iterative contract so that we can create more perspectives? I hope you understood what I'm trying to tell by the simple English words there, but just wanted to explain it in a better manner. Can someone go for it?
Mm, no, what I understood
No, no, I'm just asking
the
if
first
someone
few,
understood my say. Hey, your voice
yes,
is
I
breaking.
think I did.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, her voice was breaking at the beginning. Now I
Mm.
can't hear anything. Okay, so let me keep going in the interest of time.
Is it the other form of there is a contracting model like change for free, money for nothing?
No, no, change for free, money for nothing will actually come in the target price contract.
Okay.
Okay, money for nothing will come provided those particular sprints are cancelled as a part of the envisaged work. If they're planning for 6 sprints and last 2 sprints get cancelled, then the client will pay money for nothing. So, okay, so iterative contract, as it is mentioned here, see, iterative contract is a very simple one. You do a demo based on the value created by the demo, based on the features accepted, based on the story points accepted or the user stories accepted, proportionately billing will be given. This contract is fullest value to the client, but not to the vendor. That is why there is a tug of war or a friction when someone says iterative contract. Now the point is, instead of thinking vendor and client, it is better to find a sweet spot wherein you have a balance between the both, right? Because so my suggestion is, if you are formulating an iterative contract for the first 3 sprints, probably the vendor can give a lesser price point to the client, because the first 3 sprints are the sprints to pick up the momentum for the team. From the fourth sprint, when they has really started picking up the ground activity and delivering value, I suggest the vendor to increase the price point, because from the fourth sprint, the value delivered will be sustainable value by and large. So you may need to see mix and match. Okay, okay, and then come to a consensus. Okay, now let us go to the fourth one, fixed profit contract. Okay, I think some participants have raised hand. Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to tell anything?
Um, am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Now, I had a quick question about the fixed time and fixed cost. Now, the PO, if they are from the vendor side, that imagining that I am the vendor, then of course, yes, the PO could actually draw a balance. But how can you actually control on the scope when, when the PO may be from the client side and they may be going overboard with it?
Okay. So this question has okay. From my perspective, this question has a two angles. One is, as an agile coach, I should be able to define a requirements governance framework. For example, when there is a requirement change happening within a sprint, I cannot keep on entertaining the change, because every sprint comes with a goal, right? So during the initial days, it is perfectly fine, but after 3 or 4 sprints, as an agile coach, I need to intervene and then set a requirements management, some kind of a governance saying that once the sprint starts, you cannot change the scope beyond a certain level. Some threshold limit need to be set. Okay. Now the other angle to this question is, see, actually speaking, do we think that fixed scope is the problem in an agile driven engagement contract? Absolutely no. Marrying the fixed scope to the fixed cost is the problem. See, we all know that fixed scope cannot exist by and large in an agile driven engagement. But still, to start the journey, maybe you started with a fixed scope. The problem comes really when money comes inside the picture, when someone marries that fixed scope to the invoicing or the budgeting aspects. So fixed scope is never a problem. You tagging the fixed scope to the fixed cost is the problem. Is my perspective. Maybe someone else can add their own dimensions, please. Or what do you feel?
So basically, the guideline that you're proposing is that there should be a governance model that is agreed by both parties, so that either of the parties could actually control the scope, which will come within the bounds of that, the agreed cost.
Yes, because see, why am I talking about the requirements governance is that not only from a contracting and a costing point of view, there should be a balance between your plan and there should be a balance between agility, which is the flow, right? So whether you entertain requirement changes or not is never a question. It's not a question of yes or no. What is the rationale behind it? What are the criterias or aspects you consider whenever you are going to create a validate requirement change, within a sprint? For example, size of the change, the frequency of the change, the timing of the change. So we have certain guidelines there. I need to do an analysis on all these things. And for example, right, why am I saying the timing of the change is important? If the change is coming on the last day of the sprint, then it can might as well wait for one more day and the change can be pushed to the next sprint, right? So I need to do an impact analysis on the change, and I need to start using some sprint gadgets like in my Jira, which is going to capture the scope variance. And you can set a threshold limit. Any scope variance beyond the 10 percentage cannot be entertained within the sprint, because agility embraces change doesn't mean that we will keep changing, we'll keep on changing our goal also. Every sprint comes as a goal which we need to respect it. And one more important point, all these things need to be documented as a working agreement in your team charter, and my agile coach need to socialize all these things so that when that particular situation comes, people do not need to panic, is my say, because which is what I have done. Anand, you had one question. Anand, I saw that you.
Yes, Balaji. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we always talk about value, right? So who fixes this value? Is it the client fixes this value, or the supplier fixes the value, and how the agreement will be made that, okay, this is the value?
Okay, so who actually fixes the value means who is the business value maximizer in this particular landscape? It is my product owner, because my
PO from the client side
yeah.
has all the power, but as someone mentioned, if the PO is from the supplier, then and there is a clash between two POs from the supplier and the client, then there is a problem. So we need to first freeze on the business benefit, probably in the dollar terms, that they want to increase this business by 50% in the next 6 months, right?
For example, let
Co- like cost of operations cost.
no, 1 second, please. Let me show you something. I'm not sure whether it may help you.
So defining business value is a very tricky thing, actually. What they see as a value, I might not see as a value to me.
No, but generally speaking, your features and the sub epics are anyway going to inherit the value from the funded epics, right? That's what I was just thinking. 1 second. Okay, let me take this. See, for example, this is a customized agile framework which I created in one of the engagement. Now, for example, value comes from where? Whatever is been funded at an epic level, value starts here, right?
Right.
Because see, the point is this: my team is value creator, my program team is value enabler. Actual
Right.
portfolio team is the value identifiers. So it is responsibility of people at the portfolio level to identify the value. This is not a scaled agile framework. This is a customized agile framework which we created in one of my engagement. Of course, learnings have taken from SAFe, but
Right.
now the point is only funded epics can become part of my roadmap. And why am I funding that epic? Because there is a perceived business value,
Right. So it
right?
makes sense. I understood from where you are coming from.
Okay, now
So
you understand. For example,
is
every
there
quarter,
is
yeah,
there any chance that we will get these things? Because picture says a lot of words.
yeah, this particular PP, this particular image has been anyway clipped in the PPT
Okay.
for you people.
Okay. 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 Great.
Okay. So what
Thanks.
I'm saying is that here the see, because these layers talk about the efficiency, program and the team. Effectiveness has been
Hmm.
counted at a portfolio level. So
Hmm.
your value identifier happens here. Based on the strategy, you'll be funding it and then doing it. So which I have anyway covered in the forthcoming slide. So one second. Okay. So just to continue here. So one of the model is actually iterative contract. Basically the next model is fixed profit contract or a risk sharing contract. See, this one is a bit tricky. Meaning to say, as a vendor, let's say like no, I am working for a client. As a vendor, I am interested in my fixed profit, irrespective of whether the cost overrun no cost overrun happens, or irrespective of the changes which may happen from the client side. Let's say vendor try to make a fixed profit, the cost provided to the client is $20, whereas the actual cost for me as a vendor to run the show is only $15. So the difference is $5. Now I am keeping this difference as a fixed one, irrespective of the fluctuations. I can still go by the normal happy path, or if you need to, or if you see the cost overrun happens, the overrun need to be borne by the client. And now the point is that no, generally people tell that if you want to take this particular contract, then you need to talk to your client and explain to the client about your profit margin. Because of this numbers as my profit margin in my balance sheet, I am quoting the difference as a fine. So people may have a resistance that, hey, don't expose these things to client. But we all know in a typical IT industry, if company X is quoting this much per hour, then how much company Y will quote? It's again a competition, right? Plus or minus 10, plus or minus 15%. So somewhere in some magazine, I was reading that margins in software is actually never a secret. It is an open secret. If you have multiple vendors, by and large, we all know, okay, for this role, this vendor may primarily charge this much. So probably I can give some 10% discount than that vendor to win the deal, something like that. Okay. Now let me come to target price contract. See, in this target price contract, what happens is, let's take a situation during the beginning of the journey, we have planned for a 6 sprints, but then the work got completed in 4 sprints. Now the situation is, my client has the power to cancel the 2 sprint, but if they suddenly cancel without doing any payment, no, it will take time for the vendor to redeploy these guys in some other no assignments or engagements. So the contracting model is done in such a manner, if you're canceling for the last 2 sprints, then at least 25% of the money need to be paid to the vendor. Here I used 25% as just an example. You do customer collaboration over contract negotiation and then finalize the number here. This is called a nothing for someone told no. What is the phrase? Someone told no. Um,
Mm. Change for money for nothing, change for free.
Correct. So because for the last 2 sprints, you are actually getting free money. But see, because there is no guarantee, no, because there is no guarantee that whether the work will completed within 4 sprints or in 5 sprints. So for the cancelled sprint, we need to put a clause in the agile contract.
Good.
So these are all situations where I'm not able to pre-agree to the scope necessarily, but then how to play the game on a safer side. Safe doesn't mean only vendor safe or client side. You should have also have a win-win situation, because any contract which we write purely biased on one guy, like either the vendor guy or client guy, is not going to sustain or survive. You need to make the clauses here and there so that it's a win-win for everyone, and that comes out of experience also. Okay, so these are all some of the pointers on this.